The Buddha once reminded us, peace is not something you chase outside, it is something you awaken within. Think about that for a moment. How often do we search for peace in other people, in success, in distractions, only to come back to the same ache in our chest? There are times when life feels unbearably heavy, when silence in your room seems louder than any noise, and you quietly ask yourself, will this pain ever end? You're not broken for feeling this way. Every heart, no matter how strong, eventually learns the language of sorrow. Even the Buddha himself, before awakening, sat beneath the weight of suffering, unsure of the path forward. But here is where Buddhist wisdom turns everything upside down. It doesn't tell you to escape your sadness or bury it under false smiles. It invites you to sit with it, to listen as if sadness were a teacher with something important to say. Over time, that raw ache in your chest can be reshaped into something extraordinary. Compassion for yourself, understanding of others, and a kind of peace that no storm can shake. In this journey we're about to take together, I'll share timeless lessons that Buddhist philosophy offers for those moments when you feel lost, broken, or painfully alone. These are not quick solutions, but living truths that have guided countless seekers for centuries. Think of them as lanterns placed along a dark road. Quiet lights that remind you you're never walking alone. 1. Suffering is not a curse, but a teacher. Most of us grow up believing that suffering is proof something has gone wrong. If we feel lost, anxious, or broken, we assume it's punishment, maybe for a poor choice, maybe from life itself. But Buddhism whispers a different truth, one that is both disarming and liberating. Suffering isn't a curse, it's a messenger. The Buddha's very first noble truth begins not with denial, but with honesty. Life contains suffering. He didn't share this to darken our hearts, but to awaken us. He wanted us to see that pain is not an accident, not a detour. It is part of the very road we walk. When you begin to look at suffering through this lens, something inside you softens. You stop blaming yourself for your sadness. You stop asking, why is my life not perfect? You stop comparing your hidden struggles to the polished smiles of others. Instead, you begin to recognize pain for what it really is. A doorway, a chance to listen, to grow, and to wake up. Your grief, your silent tears, the nights where you wonder if anyone sees you. These aren't signs of failure. They are signs of life. They reveal that your heart is still alive, still tender, still capable of deep feeling. And maybe, just maybe, that pain is leading you somewhere more profound than comfort ever could. Buddhism doesn't hand you an escape route. It doesn't say erase your pain. It says, sit with it. Look closer. Ask it what it wants to show you, because hidden inside your suffering may be the very insight you've been searching for. You may see that you've been clutching too tightly to something that no longer belongs in your life. You may notice that pain is revealing a part of your heart that's starving for compassion. You may come face to face with the truth of impermanence, that nothing, not even suffering, stays forever. There is a quiet kind of power in no longer running from suffering but bowing to it as a teacher. Pain has a way of burning away illusions, false identities, shallow relationships, expectations that never matched reality. Yes, the fire stings, but it also clears the ground for something truer to grow. The paradox is this: the deeper your suffering, the deeper your potential to awaken. In the thickest darkness, even the smallest flame glows brighter. And it is often through the cracks of suffering that light first enters your life. Light made of compassion, resilience, and clarity. If you can lean into sadness even a little, just enough to stop resisting, you'll notice subtle shifts. The weight in your chest begins to loosen. The voice that keeps asking, "Why me?" grows quieter. In its place, a different strength begins to rise. Not the strength that shouts, but the strength that endures. The strength that whispers, "I can fall and still rise. I can hurt and still heal. I can be fragile and still whole." So the next time suffering finds you, do not mistake it for punishment. Do not treat it as your enemy. See it as a sacred invitation. An invitation to slow down, to shed illusions, to return to what is real. With patience and compassion, even the heaviest pain can become a passage, not into despair, but into wisdom, not into destruction, but into renewal. And perhaps the most surprising truth of all, your suffering is not the end of your story. In many ways, it is where your true story finally begins. 2. Emotions are weather, not who you are. When sadness descends, it often convinces us it's here forever. The weight in your chest feels endless, the fog in your mind refuses to lift, and you start whispering doubts to yourself. Maybe this is just who I am now. It's a painful illusion, one that makes you question your worth, your resilience, even your very identity. But the Buddha offered us a gentle key called anicca, the truth of impermanence. He reminded us that nothing in this world, no matter how overwhelming, stays the same. The seasons turn, rivers shift, mountains erode, and so too, your emotions will pass. Every storm eventually clears. Every night eventually gives way to dawn. Picture the sky, boundless, quiet, always present. Sometimes it's crystal clear, sometimes covered with thick, stormy clouds. Lightning may flash, thunder may roar, but the sky itself is untouched. It never disappears. It simply holds what passes through it. You are that sky. Your emotions, grief, fear, loneliness, are nothing more than weather. They roll in, stay for a time, and roll out. Yet the mistake we often make is confusing the storm with the sky. We say, I am depressed instead of I am experiencing depression. We say, I am anxious instead of I am feeling anxiety. That tiny shift in language holds enormous power, because the truth is, you are not your emotions. You are the awareness watching them drift in and out. The Buddha urged us not to cling to joy or resist sorrow, but to observe both with equanimity. That means allowing your sadness to arrive without judgment, without pretending it shouldn't be there, and without rushing to escape it. Instead of pushing sadness away, try welcoming it the way you'd watch a rainstorm, knowing it has arrived for a reason, knowing it will eventually pass, and trusting that the air will feel clearer afterward. There is a rare peace in this practice. The moment you stop fighting your emotions, you stop being ruled by them. The moment you stop fearing sadness, you gain a quiet strength that doesn't depend on the weather of the day. Just as waves rise and fall, just as seasons shift without your permission, your emotional world is always moving, never still. So when you feel lost in the fog, remember, no storm lasts forever. Even the darkest sky eventually shows stars. Even the heaviest downpour eventually softens into silence. The task is not to control the storm, but to stay grounded while it passes. Breathe, watch, wait. Let your emotions move through you like water flowing in a river. Do not build a dam. Do not try to redirect the current. Allow it to arrive and allow it to leave. The more patient you become with your inner storms, the more you discover something extraordinary. Beneath all turbulence lies a steady, unshaken presence. A presence that cannot be damaged by any passing cloud. That is your true nature, your Buddha nature. So the next time sadness wraps around you like a heavy cloak, whisper to yourself, this is not forever. This is a cloud, not the sky. Let it come. Let it stay. Let it leave. And when it does, you will find yourself standing on the other side, clearer, calmer, and more deeply anchored in peace than ever before. 3. Loneliness is not a curse, but a doorway to truth. There is a kind of pain that doesn't shout, doesn't rage, doesn't even ask for attention. It simply lingers, quiet, invisible, and heavy. That pain is loneliness. Not just the kind you feel when no one is around, but the deeper kind. The loneliness that sneaks in even when you're surrounded by people. It's that ache that whispers, no one really sees me. No one truly understands in those moments. It's tempting to think something is wrong with you, that your loneliness is proof of your flaws. But Buddhism offers a far kinder perspective. Loneliness is not a curse. It's an invitation, a doorway to understanding yourself in ways you've never imagined. The Buddha himself sought solitude, not because he was unwanted or abandoned, but because he understood the sacred power of being alone. In the silence of forests and caves, he did not feel empty. He felt closer to truth. That's the part most of us miss. Loneliness, when embraced with awareness, is not a void to fear, but a path that leads inward. The problem isn't that we are alone. The problem is that most of us don't know how to sit with ourselves. Modern life pulls us outward with buzzing phones, glowing screens, constant conversations. We are so endlessly stimulated that when the world finally grows quiet, we meet a stranger inside, ourselves. And that encounter feels unsettling. But what if that silence is not an enemy, but a teacher calling you home? The next time loneliness visits, instead of running from it, pause. Sit quietly. Place your hand on your heart and ask, "What are you here to show me?" Beneath the surface, loneliness often carries wisdom. Maybe it reveals how much you've been leaning on others for your sense of worth. Maybe it uncovers how far you've wandered from your own center. Or maybe it simply gives you space to reconnect with something deeper than approval, the steady presence of your own soul. In Buddhist practice, loneliness is not seen as the absence of love. It is the absence of illusion. When we stop demanding that others complete us, we begin to discover a love that does not depend on anyone else, a love that arises from within. This is Metta, loving kindness. And it begins not with the world outside, but with you. When you offer compassion to yourself, gentle words, kind patience, forgiveness, your loneliness starts to change shape. It no longer feels like an empty void. It becomes a vast stillness, like a temple made of silence, where your soul can rest. And in that sacred stillness, you realize you are never truly alone. You have your breath. You have your awareness. You have the present moment, always available, always faithful. And within you, there is a quiet watcher, a presence that observes your every thought and feeling without judgment. That inner witness is your truest companion. It never leaves, no matter who else does. This is why Buddhist practice doesn't urge you to escape loneliness. It invites you to sit with it, to breathe with it, to let it reveal what you've ignored for too long. With time, something beautiful happens. You start enjoying your own company. You see that solitude is not scary, but sacred. Silence is not empty, but full. And your own presence, once embraced, becomes more comforting than the noise of the world. So the next time the quiet feels heavy and the ache of loneliness presses into your chest, try this. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and whisper to yourself, "I am here. I am enough. I am home." Say it until it stops feeling like words and begins to feel like truth. Because loneliness, when seen clearly, is not a punishment. It's a mirror. It shows you the parts of yourself you've forgotten to love. And when you begin to love those parts, patiently and unconditionally, loneliness transforms into luminous stillness. A peace that no absence can steal and no presence can replace. A peace that is yours to keep wherever you go. 4. Attachment is the root of sorrow. Learn to release with grace. At the heart of nearly every sorrow we carry lies a hidden truth. The pain is often less about what happened and more about our unwillingness to let go of how we wished it would have been. This is the essence of attachment, and it is one of the Buddha's most profound teachings. He taught that suffering arises not from life itself, but from our clinging, our desperate grasp on people, outcomes, identities, and dreams that are all, by nature, impermanent. We don't cling because we are foolish or weak. We cling because we long for certainty in an uncertain world. We want to feel safe, We want to feel chosen. We want to feel in control. So we hold tightly to relationships, believing they will last forever. We attach to our titles, expecting them to define us. We cling to routines, possessions, and even versions of ourselves. And yet, life is always moving. What we clutch inevitably shifts, fades, or slips away. The pain we feel is not just in the loss, it is in our grip. Imagine holding a rope being pulled from the other end. The tighter you grasp, the more it burns your hands. The rope itself isn't causing the suffering, it's the grip. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you're no longer choosing to be burned by something you were never meant to hold forever. But here's the subtle beauty of Buddhism. It does not ask us to stop loving. It does not teach cold detachment. Instead, it invites us to love more fully, but with open hands instead of clenched fists. To save a life without demanding permanence from what was never designed to last. This is not indifference. This is freedom. Letting go, however, is not about force. It is about gentleness. Buddhists often speak of compassionate release, loosening your grip slowly, respectfully, and with kindness. It's not about pretending you don't hurt. It's about sitting with that ache, grieving what has changed, and then moving forward without bitterness. We often imagine that peace will arrive the moment life gives us exactly what we desire. But what if true peace comes when we stop insisting that life must always bend to our desires? What if the path to freedom is in learning to say, "This was beautiful, and now it has changed"? Letting go is not a single act, it's a practice, breath by breath. Each time you notice yourself trying to control, trying to hold, trying to resist change, you can whisper gently, "Control is an illusion. I can let this pass." The more you practice, the lighter your heart becomes. And in that lightness, you discover space, space where peace can finally live. There is a story told in Buddhist circles about a weary monk carrying a heavy bundle up the mountains. When he finally arrived, he set the bundle down with a long sigh of relief. Another monk asked, "What did you learn from your journey?" And he replied, "That the burden was never mine to carry forever. I only needed to put it down." We are all carrying bundles, old wounds, fading relationships, expectations of how life should have been. Maybe now is the time to pause, to breathe, and to ask yourself, am I ready to lay some of this down? Not all at once, not with harshness, but slowly, gently, with compassion. Because letting go does not strip you of love, it deepens it. It replaces the fear of loss with the freedom to love without conditions. It replaces tightness with spaciousness. It replaces sorrow with clarity. It is the quiet joy that comes when you stop trying to trap the river in your hands and instead learn to flow with it. So if your heart is aching today because something precious has slipped away, remember this. Your pain is not proof that you are broken. It is proof that you loved deeply. And now your path is not to clutch what is fading, but to open your hand and let life breathe through it. For when you release with grace, you don't lose love. You become love itself. 5. The present moment is where peace lives. There is a quiet thief that robs us more cruelly than the passing of years or the loss of money. It steals the one treasure that can never be replaced, our presence. This thief isn't outside of you. It is the restless mind running endlessly between the ruins of yesterday and the fantasies of tomorrow. Think of the times you've been sad or anxious. Were your thoughts ever anchored in now? Most likely, they were replaying past wounds, rehearsing old conversations, reliving regrets. Or they were leaping into the future, imagining tragedies, chasing unfinished dreams, fearing what might come. The past becomes a movie you can't stop rewatching. The future becomes a stage for disasters that haven't even happened. And all the while, the one place peace exists, the present, is abandoned. The Buddha taught mindfulness not as a trend or a technique, but as a doorway to freedom. To be mindful is to rest fully in what is happening now, without judgment, without clinging, without pushing away. The present is not just a slice of time, it is the only ground on which awakening stands. It is the only place where the heart can soften, where the mind can quiet, where the soul can breathe. But when sadness presses against your chest, the urge is to run, to drown yourself in noise, to numb the ache, to escape into distraction. Buddhism whispers the opposite. Return. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the moment you are in. Not to erase the pain, not to force a solution, but simply to be here as you are. And here lies the paradox. When you truly arrive in the present, suffering begins to loosen. Not because your circumstances change, but because your relationship with them does. The stories you tell about your pain stop feeding it. The identity you build around sadness stops weighing you down. What's left is simply a passing wave, an experience rising and falling within the ocean of your awareness. Of course, the present is not always comfortable. Sometimes it holds grief, emptiness, or discomfort. But even here, there is a deeper kind of peace, the peace of presence. A quiet knowing that whispers, I don't need to solve everything right now. I just need to breathe. I just need to be. This is how transformation begins, not with grand gestures, but with quiet, steady returning. Picture a seed sprouting under soil. At first, it is invisible, but with patience, it grows into roots strong enough to anchor a tree. In the same way, each time you return to the present, you are planting a seed of resilience within yourself. Over time, it becomes a foundation no storm can uproot. Try it with something as simple as a cup of tea. Hold it. Feel the warmth in your palms. Watch the steam curl upward. Breathe in its fragrance. In that moment, if you are truly present, there are no problems. There is only the joy of being alive. Now imagine if more of your life was lived that way, not racing from one worry to the next, but actually tasting, touching, and living each moment fully, whether light or heavy. This is the heart of Buddhist practice. This is where healing begins. When your sadness feels unbearable, when your thoughts spiral out of control, pause. Place your hand on your chest. Feel the ground under your feet. Follow the breath as it enters, fills, and leaves. That is reality. That is truth. The fears, the what-ifs, the endless stories, those are shadows. But this breath, this heartbeat, this moment, that is life. And it is enough. You don't need to repair everything to find peace. You don't need to erase your past or perfect your future. You need only to awaken to this moment, the one unfolding in front of you. Because once you learn to return, you discover you are carrying a sanctuary inside yourself, a place you can visit anytime, a still point in a spinning world. No matter where you are, no matter how chaotic your life becomes, the present moment is always waiting. It doesn't ask you to earn it. It doesn't demand perfection. It simply offers itself again and again like an open hand. So when your mind begins to wander, when your emotions swirl, when you feel adrift in fear or regret, come back. Come back to your breath. Come back to the air brushing your skin. Come back to the sounds of life around you. Come back to now. Because no matter how dark the storm or how uncertain the road, this moment is always enough. This moment is life. And in this single breath, you are home. 6. You are not broken. You are awakening. There are seasons in life when it feels as if everything inside you is collapsing. The world outside keeps moving, people chatting in cafes, cars rushing by, laughter echoing somewhere nearby. Yet within you, it feels like the ground has given way. You lie awake in the middle of the night, your body drained but your thoughts running wild. You ask questions no one seems able to answer. Why do I feel like this? What's wrong with me? Why can't I just be okay? And in the silence that follows, a darker thought may appear. Maybe I'm broken. Maybe I'm beyond repair. This, more than anything, is one of the greatest illusions of the mind. For Buddhism, does not see you as broken. It sees you as someone standing at the threshold of awakening. What you call falling apart is often the beginning of falling open. The layers of illusion, roles, identities, expectations you've worn for years begin to crack. And though it feels painful, it is not punishment. It is transformation. Your soul is moving through fire, not to destroy you, but to shape you into something new. The lotus, sacred symbol of Buddhism, never grows from perfect waters. It rises out of thick mud, pushing upward through the darkness until it blossoms in the light, untouched by the dirt that nourished it. This is not just a poetic image. It is your story. Your pain, your heaviness, your grief. They are the mud. And within that mud lies the seed of your own awakening. Tears are not weakness. They are your body's way of releasing what your soul no longer needs. Loneliness is not abandonment. It is space being cleared so you can meet yourself more deeply. Even numbness and exhaustion carry messages. Stop running. Sit still. Listen. The world often demands perfection, smiles on the outside, productivity at all costs, a polished image for everyone else. But this is not the human way. To be human is to be real. And being real means we break sometimes. So if you are hurting now, I invite you to imagine something different. What if your pain is not evidence of failure, but proof of how close you are to something sacred? What if the heaviness you feel is not a curse, but a sign that something false is dissolving so that something real can emerge? Think of a cracked clay pot, a story often told in Buddhist circles. A water bearer carried 2 pots each day from the river. One pot was whole, the other cracked, spilling water along the path. The cracked pot felt ashamed, believing it had failed its purpose. But one day, the bearer smiled and said, "Look behind us." And the pot saw wildflowers blooming along the path where its water had fallen. "You see," the woman said, "you thought you were broken. But all along, you were giving life. You may feel cracked right now. You may believe you are leaking, failing, falling apart, but you cannot yet see the flowers blooming because of your struggle. You cannot see how many lives you will touch, how much wisdom you will carry, how much compassion you will radiate because you walked through the dark and kept going. Buddhist practice does not demand you wear a mask of joy. It does not ask you to cover wounds with spiritual slogans. It teaches the opposite. Welcome what arises. Sit with your fear as a visitor. Hold your shame as something longing to be seen. Let your sadness reveal the truths you've ignored. In this way, every emotion becomes a doorway. You are not meant to be perfect. You are meant to be present. And sometimes presence looks like sitting with your brokenness and whispering, "Even this belongs." That is the first spark of awakening, the realization that peace was never in appearances, never in perfection, but in awareness itself. Your worth has never been measured by your productivity, your status, or how put together you appear. It has always been here, in your being, in your breath, in your simple capacity to rise again, even when no one sees the battle. One day you will look back at this chapter, not as your downfall, but as your turning point. The moment you stopped being who you thought you had to be and began becoming who you truly are. A soul refined, not ruined, by sorrow. A heart softened, not hardened by loss. A being deepened, not diminished by pain. This is awakening, not into perfection, but into freedom. So let this be your reminder. You are not behind. You are not defective. You are walking the sacred path of transformation. Even if your steps feel fragile, you are shedding illusions, uncovering truths, and discovering the strength you never knew you had. And if today you feel like you are unraveling, remember, unraveling is not the end. It is how threads are freed to be rewoven into something stronger. The night is not proof the sun has vanished. It is the preparation for dawn. So breathe, stay, allow. You don't need all the answers today. You don't need to rush your healing. Step by step, breath by breath, you are awakening. Quietly, steadily, beautifully, you are becoming free. 7. Love is not something you chase. It awakens within. When the heart aches, whether from loss, loneliness, or the quiet weight of sadness, our first instinct is often to search outward. We scan the horizon of our lives, hoping someone or something will ease the ache. A partner, a friend, a new adventure, a career change, or even just a voice whispering, "You matter." We long to be seen, to be held, to feel that we belong. And yet, paradoxically, the more desperately we chase love outside of ourselves, the more it seems to slip through our fingers. The harder we reach, the more we feel the emptiness of what we don't have. Slowly, a dangerous belief begins to take root. Maybe I am unlovable. Maybe I am not enough. Maybe I will walk this life unseen. But Buddhist wisdom offers a truth that turns this entire belief upside down. It tells us that love was never something we had to find in others. It was something waiting to be uncovered within ourselves. The warmth, the acceptance, the compassion we've searched for in the world, it has always lived in us, though sometimes hidden beneath fear, conditioning, or neglect. The path out of loneliness, then, is not to demand love from others, but to awaken the love that already exists within you. The Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." This is not just a comforting phrase, it is an invitation to transformation. Self-love in Buddhism is not vanity, not ego, not arrogance. It is about building a relationship with yourself so deep, so sincere, that even in your darkest nights, you know you are not abandoned. The question is, how do you love yourself when you feel unworthy? How do you extend warmth to a heart that feels cold? How do you show compassion to a mind that has been trained to criticize and shame? The answer begins with presence, with the simple act of sitting with yourself, not as a judge, not as a fixer, not as an enemy, but as a witness. To stay with your own sadness, confusion, joy, and silence without turning away. To place your hand over your chest and softly whisper, "I see you. I hear you. I am here for you," because attention is love. When you give someone your undivided presence, you are saying, "You matter," and that offering must include you. From childhood, many of us were conditioned to believe that love is conditional, something we must earn by being useful, attractive, successful, or pleasing. That belief lingers into adulthood like an invisible contract. If I perform, I'm valuable. If I achieve, I'm worthy. If I'm needed, I'll be loved. But Buddhism invites you to tear up that false contract and return to a deeper truth. Your worth has never been conditional. Your heart does not have to prove itself. By simply existing, you are already worthy of care. One of the most profound practices for awakening this truth is Metta, or loving-kindness meditation. It begins with offering simple, sincere blessings to yourself. You close your eyes, breathe deeply, and repeat within, "May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease." When the heart aches, whether from loneliness, heartbreak, or sadness, our first instinct is often to look outward. We scan the horizon of life, hoping someone will ease the emptiness. A partner, a friend, a new path, a change of scenery, or even just a voice saying, "You matter." We crave to be seen, to be held, to be validated. And yet, the more we chase love outside ourselves, the further away it seems. We reach and still feel the absence. We give and still feel unseen. Slowly, a dangerous belief takes root. Maybe I am not lovable. Maybe I am not enough. But Buddhism offers a radical healing truth. What you are searching for was never out there. The compassion, warmth, and acceptance you've been chasing, they have always lived within you. Perhaps hidden, perhaps neglected, but absolutely real. The path to dissolving loneliness is not in demanding love from others, but in awakening the love that already exists inside. The Buddha said, You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. This isn't just a quote for inspiration. It's an invitation to transformation. The question is, how do you love yourself when you feel unworthy? How do you offer warmth to a heart that feels cold? How do you extend compassion to a mind trained to criticize and reject? The answer begins with presence, with sitting quietly, not as a judge or fixer, but as a witness, to stay with your sadness, your silence, your confusion, without running away, to place your hand over your heart and whisper, I see you, I hear you, I am here for you. Attention is love, and that offering must include you. For most of us, love has been framed as conditional. If I succeed, I'll be valued. If I look good, I'll be wanted. If I'm needed, I'll be loved. But Buddhism asks us to tear up that contract. Your worth is not dependent on achievement or appearance. Your heart, simply because it exists, is already worthy of care. One of the most powerful practices for remembering this truth is Metta, loving-kindness meditation. It begins with gentle words offered inwardly. May I be safe, may I be healthy, may I be peaceful, may I live with ease. At first, this may feel awkward. You may resist. You may even feel unworthy of the words. That's natural. Metta is not about instant belief. It's about planting seeds, seeds of compassion, seeds of remembrance. Over time, as you water them with breath and sincerity, something inside shifts. The inner critic grows softer, shame loosens its grip, and in its place, a quiet warmth begins to emerge. Not dramatic, not loud, but unmistakably real. This doesn't mean you'll stop wanting love from others. Of course not. Humans are built for connection. But when you've awakened love within, your relationships change. You no longer grasp at others to fill your emptiness. You no longer confuse dependence with love. You meet others as a whole being, not flawless, but whole. And only from that wholeness can real connection blossom. One of the deepest wounds we carry is self-rejection, the constant whisper that we are not enough. It hides in our posture, in our habits, in the way we look in the mirror. But Buddhism offers an antidote. Love yourself not less because you suffer, but more. Suffering is not proof you are unworthy. It is the call to extend greater compassion inward. This is not about ego. It's about healing. You are not a problem to be solved. You are not a machine to be optimized. You are a living, breathing being. And your heart, no matter how bruised, holds infinite capacity to love and be loved. So when the voice inside says, you are too damaged, too flawed, too far gone, don't fight it. Don't silence it with force. Instead, let the mindful part of you, the watcher, the presence that has seen storms rise and fall, step forward and say, I hear you. I see your pain, but I choose to love myself anyway. That single choice, made again and again, is revolutionary. Because true love is not a fleeting feeling. It is a practice. Sometimes it looks like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like rest. Sometimes it looks like setting boundaries. But it always begins with treating yourself with the same care you would offer to someone you cherish deeply. If you are walking through loneliness right now, this is your moment, not to search harder, but to turn inward. Place your hand on your chest and say the words you've been waiting to hear. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease. Say it slowly. Say it sincerely. Say it until it no longer feels like a stranger's voice, but your own. Because this is the love you've always been seeking. Not in another's arms, not in external approval, but here, in your own presence. And as you practice, the world begins to look different. Not because others have changed, but because you've stopped begging them to complete you. You have remembered your wholeness. From that place, life softens. Loneliness loses its grip. Even when no one else is near, you know you are accompanied by your own awakened heart. So when the night feels long, when your chest feels empty, When love feels far away, pause, return, light a candle in the temple of your soul, and sit in the quiet knowing that love was never something to be hunted, earned, or chased. It only needed to be remembered. Because you are not waiting to be loved. You are, and always have been, the love that's been waiting. And so, as we walk through suffering, loneliness, attachment, and the storms of the heart, Buddhism teaches us something profound. You are never truly broken, never truly lost. Every struggle, every tear, every heavy night is part of your awakening. The mud you're standing in is the same mud that grows the lotus. The present moment is always here, offering you a sanctuary. Love is always here, waiting to be remembered. And peace is not something you have to chase. It is something you return to, breath by breath. So wherever you are right now, whether you're hurting, searching, or simply listening, remember this. You already carry within you the strength, the clarity, and the love you've been looking for. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to return to yourself. Breathe. Be here. And trust that this moment, as it is enough.